And now, it's Boomer Life, lifestyle discussion designed to make your life more engaging, meaningful, and complete. Celebrating the baby boomer generation, this is Boomer Life on CIL 650.
Hi, I'm Peter Shad, and welcome to Boomer Life on CIL 650. Are you where you want to be financially? A well-thought-out plan for your financial future is an integral part of building your life and the life you want for yourself and your family. And if you're only focusing on investment selection and performance, you could be missing 70% of the conversation. Today, we're going to talk about that missing 70% with Jim Doyle, Senior Financial Consultant with Investors Group Financial Services, Inc. Hello, Jim.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And also back for a real treat today is our special guest, Carmen Ruiz Ilata.
Well,
Eh?
Spoken like a true Spaniard.
I could taste the tapas.
Gracias.
Welcome, Carmen and Jim. And it's a very interesting time. And you've had some very interesting experiences. We're going to talk about some of your experiences, and we're going to talk about CARP, which is formerly the Canadian Association of Retirement Persons, on today's show. Jim, let's start out, first of all, I want to know more about your relationship with Carmen. You know her as the producer of Carmen TV on Joy TV, but you're also very active in the community and wearing a number of other hats. Tell us how you and Jim first met.
Well, it was kind of one of those. I was actually at an event for seniors and for Zoomers, because that's the word. I like to use Zoomer, not senior, because senior just seems so old, and Zoomer, it's like the boomer with zip, which is what we are all about. So it was at the Tapestry Foundation Seniors Lifestyle Talks, and Jim and Paige were there. And I just went around the room meeting everybody, see who was who and what was going on. And we exchanged cards and had a brief chat. And lo and behold, we connected, and then we became each other's clients, which I think has been something really different for me. I didn't expect that to happen that day, but I wish I'd taken better notes when I first met him, because I've learned all the things since, how they touched me personally, and how everybody should take heed before you need to know.
Jim, one of the things we hear from our listeners is that they don't want to be a burden on their family or anyone for that matter.
One of the benefits of planning is just that. You can take steps to become avoiding a burden to those family members.
And Carmen, earlier this year you were on the show, and you've had quite a lot going on since then. What's happened since your last visit?
Yeah, I was looking at my notes, and it was in February when I was first a guest of Jim's, taking my notes and talking about my financial plan. And then I was called home to Spain for a family emergency, and it was my mother. So I think what happens is you go into shock because she passed. And so I've depended more on Jim since that than before that big life-changing event. So a lot of the things that he was saying to me before about the plan this, plan that, do this, do that, I was, yes, I will someday. Well, that someday happened right after I was here. So it's been, I'm just so grateful that that we're friends and not just business associates, right?
Now, as I understand it, the relationship between Zoomer Media, Joy TV, and CARP is a very serendipitous one. Tell us a bit about that relationship.
Well, I was actually in the new Zoomer magazine that just came out, the Canada 150. There is a graph that was reminding me of, kind of the chronology of it. So back in the 70s, CARP started. Moses took over in 2012, pardon me. And so then he said, okay, well, let's take CARP, this wonderful advocacy group, and let's give it a lot of media so everybody should learn about all the good work that they're doing. So that's what we did. So now Zoomer Magazine, Joy TV, all of the Zoomer properties are here to support the messaging of CARP, which is another reason that, Jim and I get along so well, is because he totally understands that demographic. So he was teaching me things that were part of our advocacy department before I even had read the notes on our advocacy department. So that was I use him as a sounding board too, which is more than a financial planner, right? But you're my financial concierge.
I love that term, and I also love a new vision of aging. And if our listeners here wanted to learn more about or add their voices to CARP, how do they reach you? How do they get involved?
The usual thing, go to the website. Everything is there, carp.ca, and in there you'll get the history, all of the advocacy campaigns that we're currently promoting, benefits, and how to get in touch with your local chapter. So carp.ca.
And you just kind of told us off air that there's some exciting things about to happen, and there's a lot of new things happening at CARP too. Do you have a couple of examples?
Yeah, well, I was saying to Jim when I first met him in the lobby here that I hadn't slept very well last night because we just today sent a pilot show to Moses for his approval when he asked if I would spearhead a 1-hour show for our demographic. So pending approval from the big man himself, we should have yet another avenue to, and of course, Jim will be a regular guest with me because I need great content. And, it's all about educating and showing things like health and lifestyle and finances and travel. So stay tuned to Joy TV, and hopefully Moses will go yay, and that's what'll happen.
And there are some big priorities happening at CARP right now. Rebates, tax credits, those kind of things. There's a lot of people can benefit from this. Maybe just a little overview on those kind of initiatives.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things, when Jim and I were talking about my personal financial plan, I never imagined how I would need to take those lessons and utilize them when I was in Spain after the tragedy that befell on our family. It's like, okay, oh my goodness, where are all those documents that I needed? Where's the will? Where's all the power of attorneys? Where's the inheritance things? Where about the bank? What about the lawyer? What about this? What about that? So I've learned a lot about like the caregiver campaign, which is one of the campaigns that we are currently fighting for to, better the treatment or better the status of, the home care, like the family caregiver. Well, I became that person. So, there's been a lot of personal experiences that, that make my time with CARP now just that much more intense.
Well, it's obviously impacted you personally, but there were some things your mom did that you were proud of as well, the way she handled things too.
She absolutely did. And what was really interesting when I was talking with Jim about, because my mother was always very open about her finances and about having her paperwork in order. Like, we all knew what was going to happen, in the demise. Like, we didn't have any questions about the will or inheritance or the lands or any of that stuff. So, although, funny enough, we never really talked about money when we were kids. And I know that's something that Jim talks a lot about, to get your kids involved in the money conversation. It was just always there. So my relationship with money has been a bit, I don't know.
Sounds typical, quite frankly.
That's what Jim thinks,
yeah.
But not anymore.
Yeah.
He set me straight.
This is where Jim's expertise comes in too, helping people, plan to marshal their resources to pay for care down the road, so that you don't end up doing it because of a crisis situation, because wasn't the role that you played with your mom round the clock?
It was around the clock, and and as it says in the caregiver campaign, it's like over 8 million Canadians provide unpaid care to a family members and friends with health issues. And, the government allows you a certain amount of hours, but that's just not enough. So and usually it's the eldest daughter that has to step in. And luckily I work with Zoomer Media. So I had no issues on, getting on that plane the next day, going straight to my mother and staying an extended time to take care of her. I mean, we thought she would go into the surgery and recover and come home, and my other sister was going to take over, but that's just not what happened. So I had to stay. And so then and you don't sleep, you don't know what to do. I wasn't qualified. I'm not a nurse. I'll tell you, like, it is. So you have to plan for that thing, because what if I wasn't there? Someone has to step into that role. And usually it's, and that's the one thing that Jim and I talked about. It's like, now what I'm thinking of is, what about me? I'm 55, but I'm already thinking about my financial plan for not just retirement, but end-of-life care. And that's not something I thought to be thinking about right now. And
there's no playbook for dementia, terminal illness. We're not qualified for what you had to go through. No, and, and dementia is just a terrible affliction to so many
Zoomers, and that changes everything. That's just something that my heart goes out to a lot of families.
Jim, you obviously deal with these issues all the time. This is what you do. This is a big part of your planning practice.
We see a lot of it. For the clients who have chosen to work with us, we really want to be a resource for all things financial. Many people are simply overwhelmed, and it's a shock to their systems. They've got extremely busy lives, and they're often ill-prepared in terms of how much time, energy, and resources it's going to take to deal with all of this stuff.
Why do your clients trust your team so much, do you think, Jim?
It's probably because of the relationships that we have with the clients that we work with. They're incredibly deep. They're incredibly personal. And sometimes we know their whole family, not just the mom and dad. We've had a lot of these relationships for a very long time, and we've shared many of the important milestones in their lives.
Carmen, you use the term financial concierge. How would you say your experience with CARP has helped in your mom's case, and the experience with Jim helped you through all this?
Well, I think that my experience with CARP prior to this was, my mother was an alpha Zoomer, so everything was super healthy, super happy, no issues there at all. And when Jim says family, well, when I first went to Jim, I took all my paperwork, and I brought my sister, who lives with me. And so we together went in there, and she was just red in the face because she was so scared of what we were about to undertake. And it took about, 15 minutes to just calm down. And Jim's like, don't worry, we're going to fix this. But, we went through, okay, here's step 1. Don't worry about step 20. Just you have to take step 1. And I don't know, there was an immediate trust. So that was a thing for me. I have an issue with trust, because I think if you live long enough and have been hurt enough, that's something that's going to come to you. So that just made me realize that a lot of the things that we fight for at CARP are real issues and not just a document that we take and lobby in Ottawa. These are people's lives that are being affected every day by a lot of things that we advocate for. And Jim helped me sort of tie it all into my personal experience, right?
Jim, financial literacy is one of the bedrocks, the foundations of your practice. And we started the show today about talking about the missing 70%.
It's about all the conversations that aren't happening around money and investments. A lot of them between couples or their families about what really matters. There's just so much that you could do to enhance the outcomes if investments or insurance and estate planning, income planning, tax and philanthropic planning, caregiving, and aging with dignity. If these types of issues and conversations were explored further, wow, wouldn't that be awesome?
Well, the majority of financial advisors can access resources to create financial plans. So could we personally. But isn't it true that, an investment projection is not a financial plan? Because according to the Investment Executive 2016 Advisors Report Card, there's a huge gap between advisors who can create plans and what clients actually have.
Many investors we meet for the first time have some sort of investment projections, but they're not looking at their entire financial situation.
Would it be fair to say that sometimes that deters people from the financial planning process, the lack of understanding about what a comprehensive plan entails? And then what tips do you have for encouraging people to create a plan?
Well, stories like Carmen that you've been sharing, okay, they're pretty powerful stuff. They're pretty powerful motivators, okay? And I like the idea of putting the planning first before investment selections. Next we need to help people connect with their goals. The last thing that we need to do is to avoid intimidating language and avoid the use of industry jargon.
Intimidating language and industry jargon. I think if you're listening right now, you're familiar. If you're looking at your financial affairs and you feel as though something is missing, you need to call Jim for a second opinion. And you can reach Jim and his entire team at 604-682-5431. That's 604-682-5431.
The hows and whys of money and investments are pretty powerful stuff, but there's so much more to pay attention to that affect the things that really matter to us. And there's a lot of tools, resources, the internet, people can count on to help make better investment decisions.
I'm guessing the challenge is cutting through the clutter and staying focused and then paying attention to the things that really matter. And this is where your strengths come in.
We help you cut through the noise to make investment decisions that meet not only your needs today, but here's the important part, those other critical choices you need to make in the future.
I've known some investors over the years who think that investing and then receiving returns is the end goal in itself. But without the kind of clear goals determined through your planning process, for example, it's got to be difficult for both you as the advisor and the client to make the appropriate investments in the first place. And I know that, Carmen, you have an interesting stat that basically illustrates that point.
Yeah, when we're talking about caregiving and what you might need later on, for example, think that nearly a third of caregivers age 45 and older who have care-related expenses had annual household incomes of less than $30,000 a year. Unless you have someone helping you through many of these issues, it's easy to miss a number of tax credits and benefits worth looking at, because if you don't have advice, how are you going to navigate all that by yourself?
Great hearing from you and about CARP. If you'd like to add your voice to theirs and reach Carmen, 604-312-8812, 312-8812. Email carmentv@zoomermedia.ca.
Yeah, and, I'd also like to just invite everyone to join CARP. Go to carp.ca. You'll find out so much about what we're doing. And, and we encourage all ages, because what we advocate for doesn't necessarily mean that we as Zoomers are going to benefit today. But if we change the law, that'll benefit all Canadians as we age.
Everyone wants to be on the road to a comfortable retirement, but knowing how to get there is a different story. And if you'd like to find out whether you're on track to meet your goals, give Jim a call and put your mind at ease. Jim Doyle and his team, 604-682-5431. Email jim.doyle@investorsgroup.com. This is Boomer Life on CIL 650. We're speaking with Jim Doyle, Senior Financial Consultant with Investors Group. And when we continue, we're going to hear more about the missing 70% for most Canadians' financial pictures from Carmen and Jim next on Boomer Life.
Celebrating the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on CIL 650.